Well, let's get back to it.
Blah, blah, blah. See, told you. We, the undersigned, think that it really is awful and something should be done. See you next year. Prince Charles very upset. He expressed his disapproval on headed notepaper from his 4 palaces, 3 castles, 5 houses, 2 cottages, 3 manors, 15 estates and a teepee. Meanwhile, as COVID cases continue to soar in the Netherlands, wherever that is, hundreds of Dutch protesters had a water cannon turned on them by police after they objected to a partial return of the lockdown. So that's where Bozo, the mayor's Waffen Squirter 9000 went. You remember Bodger, when he was the part-time mayor of London, bought a couple of water cannon to hose the protesters to his bent regime off the streets? I mean, to spritz his supporters if they got too excited in his presence. Theresa May wouldn't let him use them. She made him sell them, and now they're putting out bicycle fires in Holland. Seriously, they actually tried to set fire to bicycles in protest at the new restrictions over there. Prime Minister Mark Rutte, 54, was given a press briefing to the media when protesters clashed with riot police and mounted officers outside the Justice and Security Ministry in the Dutch city of The Hague last night. Flares, projectiles and bicycles were thrown at police, and officers were seen hitting fleeing demonstrators with batons. Priti Patel has been watching the footage on repeat ever since. It's her favourite video of all time. The Netherlands recorded their highest ever daily infection count, positive COVID cases, on Friday, as in yesterday, as medics warned hospitals were being put under huge pressure amid record-breaking surge of infections. Fortunately, we aren't remotely like Holland. In other news, we have more or less the same number of infections. Hospitals here are also under huge pressure, and our death count is twice as high as theirs. And all we have to protect us from the same fate as the Dutch is the caution and expertise of our own government.
Oh, no.
We're doomed. And week-on-week COVID cases rose in the UK by a quarter today. They've been reporting for a couple of weeks now that it's all over. You can sound the alarm. The tolling of the bell means that the panic is over. You need panic no more. They said infections are going down and deaths are going down, and then today they said, yes. Well, according to the numbers, let's ask Zaphod about the numbers.
If you do the numbers, so just really a couple of things. One, 500 and about 100 million, and of course an additional 5.4 billion pounds. Now, you've got to remember, 5 million already, and a number of almost 10,000, including 86%, 5 million, and of course over 50%. And what I'm saying is, an additional 162 million, and that comes, by the way, on top of the 500 million. Now, 36 billion, of which 5.4 billion, and probably one of the biggest of 500,000 of over 16,000, massive, 500,000, and 1.7 billion, and then a 1.4 billion, 250,000, 6 million, basically 3.1 billion. Right, now that's a big number, and that's exactly what I'm delivering.
Thanks for delivering. What is that man talking about? So in Holland, things are bad. Things are also bad here. In Holland, they appear to be doing something about it, to the great distress of certain individuals. Over here, it's nothing to see. The Department of Health in this country posted 38,351 confirmed infections yesterday. 38,351. That's up by almost a quarter on the 30,693 that were recorded Saturday last week. Meanwhile, coronavirus deaths are up in the UK to 157 per week. You know, if 157 people had died in any other way, we'd be holding a candlelit vigil, and there wouldn't be any other story on the nightly news. In the Netherlands, new regulations mean that bars and restaurants will now be forced to shut at 8 p.m.
Booze.
You better get your drinking in early, Dutch people. Major sporting events will remain behind closed doors, and social distancing is to be reimposed immediately. And if you have seen what Dutch people look like, it must be very difficult for them to keep apart from each other.
Correct.
Supermarkets and non-essential retailers are going to close earlier, and the cafes and nightclubs will have to close at 8 p.m. from Saturday. Wow. You can't really run a nightclub that closes at 8 p.m. unless it's been one that's been open since 3 a.m. One of them all-nighters. A group of around 200 anti-lockdown protesters gathered outside the government building in The Hague, not A Hague, where the Prime Minister Mark Rutte was speaking. Dutch people look fantastic. It's just that they sound awful. When they speak, it sounds like a cat coughing up a fur ball. No offence. It's just a fact. A peaceful demonstration in The Hague eventually turned into chaos as bicycles, projectiles and road signs were chucked. Throwing bicycles. How Dutch is that? Meanwhile, similar action was taken in Austria after Chancellor Alexander Schallenberg announced plans to impose lockdown measures on unvaccinated members of the population. In Linz, Austria's third largest city, hundreds of protesters lined the streets to rage at the prospective measures, which would come into force from Sunday, tomorrow. 20% of intensive care beds are being used by COVID patients in Austria, apparently. That's according to Reuters. And I did the maths. I did mental arithmetic. Can you believe that?
No.
I did. And I figured out how many of our intensive care beds are being used by COVID patients. Now, 20% of intensive care beds are being used in Austria by COVID patients. 20%. Here we have 3,700 critical care beds and over 1,000 people with COVID in them at the moment. So our situation is worse than Austria, which is imposing lockdowns, and our situation is worse than the Netherlands, which is imposing lockdowns. We got 3,700 critical care beds, over 1,000 people with COVID in them right now. So our situation is that they have 20% in Austria of intensive care beds with COVID patients in. We've got 27% of our beds with COVID patients in. Of course, we haven't got many beds after 11 years of the Conservative administration. Safe in their hands. Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte said, "Tonight we are bringing a very unpleasant message." See, English is not his first language. You have to make allowances. He said, "Tonight we are bringing a very unpleasant message with very unpleasant and far-reaching measures." Rutte said in a televised address yesterday, "The virus is everywhere and it needs to be combated everywhere." Meanwhile, Boris Johnson warned of gathering storm clouds over Europe and used the continent's soaring epidemic as a warning of what's to come if Britons don't get their booster vaccines.
Oh, no.
He's threatening you now. "I've got to be absolutely frank with people," he said. Pah! He says, "We've been here before and we remember what happens when a wave starts rolling in," he says. Yes, we do. We do remember. We remember Bodger telling us that this would all blow over, and then that we should take it on the chin, and then that we should put all the sick people in hospital back into care homes, and then the government regained its composure, realised this was the best of times, and sprayed more cash around their mates and donors than they could ever have hoped to get away with under any other circumstance outside of World War III. Meanwhile, in the Netherlands, it reintroduced the use of face coverings as mandatory in public places, including gyms. How can you go to a gym with a face covering on? I mean, please. Also in museums and hospitality venues, henceforth known as hostility venues. People in museums here keep their face masks on. I've been going to a few museums lately, and people are very, 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 very rigorous. Do you recall any time anybody coughs these days? I know I do. Like if I'm sitting in a train carriage and somebody starts coughing, I want to, and I know this might sound unreasonable, but I want to kill them. Anyway, so new infections there topped 16,000 for the second day in a row. The Netherlands just reintroduced face coverings here, there and everywhere, baby. 16,000 for the second day in a row on Friday in the Netherlands, new infections. Here, 38,900 new cases recorded yesterday. But we seem to be pretending that this isn't happening in a rerun of the first wave and the second wave and the third wave. In fact, we're deluding ourselves to the point that we don't even recognise that there was a third wave. There was. Nearly 85% of the adult Dutch population has been fully vaccinated. And since the start of the pandemic, the Netherlands has recorded 2.27 million COVID-19 cases, 18,695 related deaths. And, that sounds bad. But we've done twice as bad as they have. Holland has got 17.4 million people. That's about a quarter of the population of the UK. In the UK, we also have vaccinated about 85% of the adult population, same as the Netherlands. But since the start of the pandemic, we've recorded 9.49 million cases, as opposed to their 2.27 million, and 143,000 deaths. So I worked it out. More maths. God, homework. Can you believe that? The Netherlands have had 0.1% of their population die of COVID. We have done twice as badly as they have, per head of population. I can't imagine for the life of me why we have done so badly.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Can anybody think of a reason? It's a mystery. 0345 6060 973, text 84850, email nicka@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's at LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC.
I really like you. Do you like me?
Not so much. Cliff tweets, Nick, I got 2 numbers on the lottery. Can I please get a boo? No, you can get this instead.
Damn it!
This anonymous text says, not being funny, we are where we are. Hindsight, it's a great thing. You're right. You're not being funny. But thanks for not saying, leave him alone. He's doing his best. Emma Lemstead. Hello, Charles.
Hello. Yeah, I just feel sorry for all the millionaires in the country.
Do you?
I really do.
You feel sorry for the millionaires in the country?
Yeah, because of Brexit, they can't employ so many Eastern Europeans, and they can't exploit them the way they were.
Right.
And because they didn't have to pay them double time for Sunday and time and a half for Saturday, and overtime rates, and they could get them for the minimum wage. All the distribution centres and all the warehouses. That were
Is that what millionaires do?
That's what they do. That's what Amazon, companies like Amazon, you could name them all the warehouses, all the supermarket warehouses, they're all suffering now. They're all having to pay more money to the British worker because they can't exploit the Eastern Europeans like they were.
If only that was true, Charles, because but unfortunately there's so many vacancies in all of the positions that you've just described and many others because British workers don't want to do those jobs. If only somebody had said that before that's right, they did, over and over and over again, and they were greeted with noises like this. Boo! They were greeted by people yelling Ramona at them. But it turns out that it wasn't Project Fear, it was Project Fact. All of those jobs that you've just described, that Eastern Europeans used to do in this country for what may be a pittance. And if they did it for a pittance, it's because we, the consumer, refuse to pay a penny more for anything that we buy. We're at fault, don't forget. It's us, the consumer, that is king. And they left, and we find that all of those jobs that we thought, people like you, Charles, thought that they were coming over here and taking from us, turns out that, as anybody that thought about it for about 5 seconds could tell you, that we didn't want to do those jobs in the first place. That's why foreign people had to come here and do them for us, like bending it over double and yanking tubers out the ground, for instance. Stuff like that. And so now we've got a very, very high level of employment, and yet we also have hundreds of thousands of jobs that are vacant, not being done, to the detriment of the economy and every single person in this country, because all of the people that used to do them have left. Why they left after only 5 years of us screaming at them to get out of our country, I can't imagine. Anyway, thanks a lot, Charles. Sean texts. The Truman Show was on earlier this evening. Leaves me with the feeling that we are being manipulated. Great film, says Sean. You're being manipulated.
Disgusting.
0345 6060 973. Finchley. Hello, Jonathan.
Hello. How you doing, Nick?
Good, thanks.
Is this leading Britain's conversation, LBC?
Okay.
Yeah, because the conversations normally involve people having, speaking with each other, whereas you just spoke. You just let that guy say something, and you didn't let him speak again. So I hope you'll let me speak again when I say what I want to say, if that's okay with you.
Well, if you say what you want to say, then what's the point of speaking again? If you have a thought on your mind that you want to impart, then impart it and then move on. Or do you want to, pitch a tent here and take over the show?
No, I'd like to have a conversation with you, so I say something, you say something back.
But if I don't want
to
to have a conversation with you, you see, it's a two-way thing. You can't just show up somewhere and demand to have a conversation with someone. You have to ingratiate yourself with that person for them to want to have a conversation with you.
Well, let's see if you'd like to have a conversation with me. I'll assert my assertion and see where we go.
Right.
So, Nick,
I have to say, not so far, but you can make up lost ground. Go ahead.
Right. Thank you. You said if 137 people died of anything else, it would be front page news. We wouldn't talk about anything else. That's what you said.
157 people died of one thing on one day. Yeah.
So, okay, fine. So that's just under 10% of the number of people that normally die on any single day.
Not of just one thing, though.
Yes, well, actually, you probably find that you probably have maybe when there's really bad
hang on
flu.
a minute. So you're making it up now. You probably will find that probably.
No, I'm not making it up.
Well, you just said you probably will find that, which means that you don't know, so you are making it up.
I'll tell you what, Nick. I'll tell you what. I'll go and do some research.
Excellent. Okay, full report on my desk first thing in the morning. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
This show is going super fantastically well so far. A lot of very angry people out there. Calm down. It might never have. Oh, no, that's right. It already has. Tony tweets, "Hi, Nick. Try Detroit-style pizza." Detroit? That doesn't sound very nice. Anybody want to eat anything that comes from Detroit?
No.
Not really. He says it's a rectangular pizza with a thick crust that is crispy and chewy. It's topped with tomato sauce on top of the cheese. What? Well, that's wrong. I think you're eating it upside down there, Tony. He says this style baked in rectangular blue steel trays designed to carry small automotive parts in factories. Yeah, it's a no from me. I like thick Chicago pizza pies. Ooh, there used to be one in this country. I'm going back so long now, but every now and again I just dream about how fantastic it was. It was called Pizzeria Uno's. It was in Soho, right at the end of that road that goes down Soho. What's it called? Old Compton Street, right at the end of there. And oh wow, I know what I want from the menu without even looking at it. And it must be 30 years since I had it. I want a seafood delico and a Long Island iced tea, please.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. They were about 2 inches deep. I mean, swimming and goopy and, oh, so great. Unlike any other pizza you've ever had in your life. I mean, I like the Italian super thin ones that have hardly got anything on it. They sort of show them the sauce and then take it away again. It's basically just a dry piece of crispy bread. They're great. But then ones that have just about a bucket of filling in their cheesy, crusty pies. Oh, so great. Detroit-style pizza cooked in trays designed to carry small automotive parts. Yeah, it's a no from me. James says, "Hi Nick, I think all this stuff about the Dutch and Austrian full and empty beds is very interesting, but what us listeners want to know is what's the weather like in the British Virgin Islands? Also, is there a temperature in Celsius or Fahrenheit? I think the temperature is in whatever you want to pay for. And it is just super fantastic. I did the weather forecast there. The weather forecast in the British Virgin Islands calls for money. It will be raining hot money on the British Virgin Islands. Let's have a call in Southgate. Hello, John.
Hello there.
Hello there.
Yeah, what I wanted to say was Johnson is laughing all the way to the bank because of the inheritance tax of all these people dying. He just couldn't care. See him in the hospital without a mask is absolutely revolting.
Yeah.
I have to travel on the tube next week, and I'm a bit worried about it. I've had my injections, but I have letters from the mayor and from TfL say they want people to wear it, but it's not the law. Why is it so difficult to pass a law on public transport? You wear masks.
Yeah, that doesn't seem to make much sense to me. I don't like wearing a mask any more than anybody else does, but in a confined space, I mean, for crying out loud, people.
Yeah, if 20% are wearing masks and 80% are not wearing masks, compare that with 90% wearing masks and 10% wearing masks without masks. I mean, you could see
these are a lot of
difference.
numbers here. It sounds like I've got Zaphod Beeblebrox on the phone.
The other thing, we came back from China in January 2020. We both had the virus. The doctor gave us antibiotics, didn't know what the virus was. Mm-hmm. And then we came back in February from abroad, and again, nothing. And yet in South Korea, they were doing things, and Sir Lloyd Webber was closing down his theatres in South Korea. All the warning signs were there, and he couldn't give a damn.
He's got theatres in South Korea.
Oh, yes, he's got a lot of theatres in South Korea.
I had no idea. Yeah, the South Koreans were all over this.
What was going on?
The South Koreans fixed this in about 10 seconds flat. They had a test and trace app, which cost them about threepence halfpenny. In 2 weeks, they managed to fashion one of those. Almost 2 years later, we're still trying to do it. Bodge.
Contact tracing.
I think we're up to about £47 billion now, John. Can you believe that?
Singapore is now, anybody that has not had the vaccination and enters the hospital now has to pay the hospital costs. That should be here as well, because most of the people in hospital nowadays have not had the vaccination.
Well, I don't know whether that's true or not. A lot of people in hospital are catching COVID in hospital. I do know that. So, if you haven't had the vaccine and you go in a hospital, then you have to pay. Then surely if you have had the vaccine and you go into hospital and you catch it, then they should pay you. Place your bets. Best of luck. Thanks a lot, John. 0345 6060 973. You can text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC. It's 10:30, the news headlines with Zora Sullivan.
Listen to him. He knows everything.
Hot pizza news from Detroit, Michigan. Roland.
I've eaten pizzas all over the world. My waistline is testament to that.
Yes.
And by far, it's not even close. Detroit pizza is the best pizza you can get in the world. Not even close.
Describe the difference between any other pizza and a Detroit pizza.
Okay, so a Detroit pizza is square. A Detroit pizza is probably 1.5 inches deep. It has crispy edges. I don't know about the blue tin being what they used to use in the factories. I don't know about that, but it's the only pizza you can get throughout most of Michigan. And it just, the crispy edges, the sauce on top of the cheese as well. That's not necessarily a Detroit pizza, but it's the squareness and the crispy edges. You just can't beat it. They're amazing. And you get it everywhere, wherever you go.
You do understand that it being square doesn't actually affect the taste.
Well, you think that, but it does.
Hey, you know what I want? An echoing silence. Hello, is this thing on?
Yeah.
You know what I want right now?
Yeah. A square Detroit pizza?
A square Detroit pizza. Yeah, can you have one delivered? You're 4,500 miles away? It'll probably be cold by the time it gets here, but I don't mind cold pizza.
I could organise that for you, no problem.
Excellent, appreciate it.
Thank you.
That's Roland in Detroit, Michigan. On the other hand, Dave in San Francisco may beg to differ. Dave.
Nick, good afternoon. Good to talk to you. With all due respect to my friends in Detroit, Detroit-style pizza is an abomination. It is a crime against humanity that COP26 should have banned. It is a mutant quiche masquerading as pizza.
Right.
It's just wrong. There are two acceptable deviations to pizza, New York style and Chicago style. Anything beyond that, you're a communist.
Right. What's New York style?
Well, New York style is very thin, very crispy. And it's in triangles, and it's obviously large triangle, and it's round. Obviously, round is important.
Right.
And of course, you've had Chicago style. You've had Uno's, and if you ever come to Chicago, go to Uno's on Rush, and they will take care of you.
Absolutely, never going to Chicago. Not now, not ever, never. It holds no interest to me whatsoever. Too hot in the summer, too cold in the winter. Why would anybody live there?
Well, I lived there for 5 years, and I got to tell you, they have great pizza. Also, I have to tell you, every Monday in my office, we start the morning with "What's your problem with Nick and Carol?"
Oh.
And everyone wants to know, is Carol really like that in person, or is that an act?
No, she's really like that. Yeah. That's her up and down.
You have done your time in purgatory, my friend.
All right. Thanks a lot, Dave. Hey, that's you there, Carol.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah, me and Carol McGiffin, we do a podcast called What's Your Problem with Nick and Carol?
Oh, right. Yeah.
In which we try to solve people's problems while maintaining a straight face. And usually failing on both counts. She really is like that. It's who she really is on that podcast, and it's really who I am as well. I know that it's the case with her, and it's with me as well, that I don't tend to laugh more in any given hour during the week than when I'm doing a podcast with her. I don't know, it's just like from the very first moment that we met, something sparked. And it continues to spark to this day. She makes me laugh. She's a funny lady.
What?
I mean that most sincerely, Carol. I really do. You can get it where you get good podcasts. If you download Global Player, then you can find it on there. All the radio stations that we do, and on top of that, all the podcasts are on there as well. What's Your Problem with Nick and Carol, it's called. If you just do an internet search on my name, Nick Abbott Podcasts, then all three that I do will become immediately apparent. But ask for that one by name. What's Your Problem with Nick and Carol? 0345 6060 973. I note that nobody in this country is calling up saying, well, you never mind about Detroit and New York and Chicago pizza. Bermondsey pizza is what you actually want to eat. Nothing so far. East Yorkshire, hello, Mike.
Hi, Nick. Yeah, just going back to COVID, I've sort of got an answer for you and a bit of a challenge. The answer, you were asking, why are there double the deaths here to Holland? Well,
per head of population.
Per head of population, yeah. What the reason is because we had 10 years of austerity, which meant that our hospital beds to population was one of the lowest in Europe.
Yeah, it's one of the worst in Europe. And you could add to that the doctors per head of population and the nurses per head of population, beds, and you mentioned beds, didn't you? And so on and so forth. They basically defunded our health service, and then, just as they did with councils, and then blamed the health service for not being able to provide us with the assistance and the care that we require. They did the same to councils. Take the money from the councils and then blame the councils for not being able to provide the services that people pay for. Cute.
Exactly, but take this one stage further, because once you've restricted the beds and the personnel, what then happened in the UK that didn't happen in Europe was that before the pandemic, if an ambulance came out to you or paramedics, they assessed you, and if you scored 6, you went to hospital. Because of the pressure on the beds, well, don't worry about the number, that's not really relevant.
Points make prizes. Go on.
Points make prizes. But as the pandemic progressed and the beds were getting full, the score to get into hospital went up to, say, 8.
Right.
And my daughter was working in a 60-bed ICU unit full of COVID patients. And what they ended up saying was either bring them to us less ill or don't bring them to us at all.
Great.
Because they were bringing them in so ill, they were hooking them up onto ventilators. 2 days later, they're switching them off and hooking somebody else up. And they said, don't bring them in that condition. We can't help them. And that's why our score is so bad versus Europe, because we didn't get people into hospital at the optimum time, which is saying the NHS was overwhelmed.
Of course, the NHS was overwhelmed before COVID arrived. I've got a report, I've got it at my fingers if you want me to read it, from 2019 saying that the NHS was completely overwhelmed, they couldn't cope, and the beds were totally full, and they were pulling their hair out, and please, God, give us some more money. And that was before COVID hit, and it's the same thing now, and it's because they, as they explained many times, the NHS is safe in their hands.
Now, can I come to the challenge bit? And this isn't. It might start off sounding controversial, but it isn't.
Right? Does it involve eating insects or unmentionable parts of mammals?
No.
Right.
The challenge is: can you get any eminent virologist to ring in and contradict what I'm about to say? And that's that from the 1st of July this year, the government has embarked on a policy consistent with trying to get herd immunity through infection. Because the government have tried to get as many people infected as possible, keep them down to 150, which they say is low, but it's actually not low. But if they get enough people infected, herd immunity could start to bring it all down, and they'll claim a victory.
Yeah, well, that last part is absolutely true. Regardless of what happens, if they can pull a scintilla of positivity out of it, then it's all due to the munificence that is Bodge. If it's in any way negative, then it's the French being mean to us.
Yeah, but you get any virologists to ring in and say their policy is inconsistent with herd immunity by infection, and I doubt that anyone will ring in.
Okay, well, maybe not. Well, I'll hold my breath and wait. I mean, you are implying that there is some sort of plan. I'm not sure that's true. Even if it's an evil plan, I'm not sure that the regime is up to making a plan. But anyway, thanks a lot, Mike. The regime is certainly not up to wearing a mask. Apparently he was asked 3 times to put a blooming mask on when he went to a hospital. You read the hospital rules and it says everybody coming into this facility must put a mask on. No doubt about it. No exceptions. You've got to have a mask. And so Bodger bowls up there for a photo shoot because he was running away from an inquisition at Parliament about sleaze. Running away seems to be his thing. I mean, he couldn't find a fridge, so he found an entire hospital to hide in to get his photograph taken. And the key part is to get his photograph taken without wearing a mask. And the reason that he seems so adamant, I mean, he was at the Festival of Remembrance tonight, apparently. I've just been handed a report from Zora Suleiman. Few of those attending the annual Festival of Remembrance wore face coverings during the event. Prime Minister Boris Johnson did not wear... No, wait. Few of those attending the festival wore face coverings. Bodger Johnson did not wear a mask as he sat in a royal box at the Albert Hall, next to a royal personage, if you can believe it. The Royal Albert Hall's guidance says, please help us keep everyone safe by wearing a face covering where possible and by respecting other people's personal space in order to reduce your risk and the risk to others. Please help us, they said. And Bodge said?
No.
No. Because he didn't want to have his photograph taken with a mask on. That's the key here. That's why he's doing it. It's for the benefit of photographs. Because he wants to put it all behind him. He doesn't want to be associated with the virus. And if you had the same dismal record that he has on this virus, you wouldn't want to be associated with it either. And so that's why they don't wear it, or are loathed to wear it when at PMQs. And you see the Tory benches, and just like a couple of days ago, like a word seemed to have gone round, said, "Oh, all right, you can put them on if you want, if you like." But it seemed to be instruction. Because none of the Tories were wearing a mask, and all of the opposite benches were wearing them. It's for optics. Never mind about people's health. It's just for looking good on photographs, so that you're not associated with the virus in the mind of the public. Plus, nobody looks particularly good wearing a mask in a photograph. So that's the reason why he doesn't do it, so that he looks better in photographs. That's where we are. Oh my God, we're all doomed. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. And if you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC.
I think he's portraying a quite stupefying ignorance.
Thanks, Bodge, you're the best. Joanne texts, Nick, I can't believe you've done homework. Apologies, but can I just ask you if you're as good with figures as Nadim Zahawi is? If so, we are doomed. Don't make me play that clip again, Joanne. Matt says, it's because Boris left the gates open. The neglect from that man is disgraceful. We should have locked the country down ASAP. Circus running the country, says Matt. Well, you hire a clown, you get a circus. Streatham, hello, John.
Hello, Nick. Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks.
I want I am for the first time ever.
Hey, John, you need to lean out of a window or get to higher ground because your phone is not very good. Go ahead.
How about now?
Okay, then let's try that.
Is that better?
A little bit better.
Okay. No, I had to go private this week for the first time ever because there's nothing left at the NHS anymore. You know.
Yeah.
The GP surgeries. They don't see anyone.
No, they don't.
They don't, and I know we're meant to go to the NHS, ain't they lovely? But they're really not. I'm not having a go at the people working for the NHS. I just mean the receptionists now. You know what they do? They say to you, "Why are you calling?"
Yeah, I know. I don't want to talk to the receptionist about why I'm calling.
And apparently, if you say it's confidential, she then says, and this is apparently not just with me. Like this happens to everyone now. She says, "No, I need to ask you why you call it. What do you do at that point?"
Well, with mine, you call them up and they say, right, well, we'll think about seeing you. We'll think about giving you an appointment, but you must go online and fill out a form, which, if you printed it out, would be about 15 pages and details every single thing that you've ever done or thought or said. And then you submit that form, that request to see a doctor to them, and they will think about getting back to you at some point in the future. And if you are successful, if you manage to get everything in order for extra points...
If you get it in order, you get extra points.
And if you get so many points that you manage to get an appointment, then they might call you on the phone.
Well, I mean, do you refuse to talk to the receptionist about the particularities of your problem?
No, I went online and filled the form out like a good little boy.
But can I want to say a couple of controversial things, but I'm not. No, but I don't want to fall out with you over this. But I mean, you do all right financially. I mean, you can go private, right? You're like a celebrity DJ. You're like no, I'm saying you're doing okay money-wise.
John, are you kidding me? Celebrity, no. DJ, also no. No, I'm not Nick Ferrari or James O'Brien. Do me a favor. I'm not Steve Allen. Steve Allen drives in a blooming Bentley.
I know.
My car is 22 years old. I put it in one of those see how much your car is worth sites.
Yeah.
£150. £150.
But so then what? Okay, so that I won't pry into your finance. Well, you're not Nick Ferrari or James O'Brien or David Lammy for that matter. Anyway, I got very frustrated, and for the first time, I'm not sort of proud of saying this, but I did drop the C-bomb, and then the receptionist said she hung up on me.
Yeah.
And I went private, and I don't like going private because it costs money, but they treat you much better.
Yeah, they'll also put up with any kind of language you want to throw at them with private medicine. As long as you pay your bill, you can say anything you like.
But they ask you, they actually go through a detailed... The private GP did ask me, she said, it was a video conference, and she said, "You do sound slightly mentally unstable. What's your psychiatric history?" And she was right,
I don't mean to laugh at that, but you're laughing too, so I thought I'll join in.
Yeah. So that was, it was a useful thing to do. But if I can make my main controversial point, that this corruption, and you might not like me saying this, and it really did start. I know, the Major was a bit, sleazy Major, and Thatcher, Milky Snatcher, but really, and you might disagree with me on this.
Well, John Major has a fairly good record on this because he set up the body that was supposed to clamp down on this sort of thing. But anyway, go ahead.
Yes, no, but I know this guy, he's very powerful, and he also listens to your show as well, but it really did start with Iraq.
Who listens to my show?
Alistair Campbell.
Right. Oh, well, I'm not sure that he does, but anyway, go ahead.
No, he does. He's tweeted. He likes your show. He's tweeted it. So if he calls up after this, tell your producer not to give out my number because, seriously.
Right. Okay.
But the gall of, and I feel very strongly about Iraq, and the gall of someone who, him and Blair, I think genuinely, in a functioning democracy, if you break laws, whether it's national laws like this corrupt government keep doing, or in the case of Blair and Campbell, international laws, you've got to face trials and juries, and that doesn't happen in this country.
Well, perhaps, but are you saying that because of all of the above, that he should not speak on this or any other issue? Because if that's your position, then that is 100% wrong. Just because somebody has done something that is, even if it's related or unrelated, does not preclude them from speaking out about things in the future, surely.
No, I don't want to preclude anybody from speaking. It's free speech in it, but I just think the gall of someone who I'm a child of Blair, right? Not literally, but I grew up under Blair's benevolent regime, and the fact that there were no repercussions for Iraq really did set the water sort of mark, or the gold standard for absolute impunity. And the fact that you've got Campbell now waxing lyrical about unlawful, corrupt, illegal, all of the above applies for Iraq. And we knew nothing happened for Iraq because they were above the law, and we knew nothing will happen to this clown and his various underlings because they're above the law. They're untouchable.
But again, you still appear to be saying, even though you're saying you're not saying it, you appear still to be saying that because there are charges levelled at someone like Alistair Campbell, then he should not speak about an issue that is related or otherwise. I mean, if it is true what you say, then what you want is experts to speak about any given issue. And if somebody has the expertise to have been in the corridors of power and has witnessed potential corruption up close, then surely that is exactly the sort of person that we want to be speaking about this issue, rather than some dope like me who's got no idea what he's talking about.
No, I'm not stopping anybody, but him or what's the odd-looking, Gollum-looking like fella, the one who keeps, what's his name?
Well, which one?
Cummings.
Oh, Dominic Cummings. Yeah, him.
There's these textbook sociopaths. I'm not stopping them. They can talk. They get millions of views.
Right.
They're making good cash from it. Good luck to them. But after they have been integral to this system of corruption, for them to then it just shows what's the way.
You're talking about different. You're talking about different kinds of corruption, though. The corruption that we're talking about with the regime, the current regime, is that in a nutshell, they're taking money from outside sources to then try to change laws to the benefit of the people that are paying them. That's the big issue here. It's not even second jobs or anything like that. I mean, that is another related and separate issue. But the key thing that seems to have got sort of lost in the second jobs things and the expenses things and all of that is that people are taking money from outside sources and then acting in the interests of those sources and against the interests of the British public. That's the key to it here. And I know that what you're saying has is valid, but it's not really the same. I mean, you could say that it's worse, taking the country into an illegal war that is the world a better or worse place without Saddam Hussein in it? Well, we could debate that to the end of time, but not on this show. Thanks, John.
Yes, hello. hello. I've been waiting for you. Hello.
Rainfall, thunder, dust storms, snow, and a plague of insects. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I read that in a book. Really old book. Alex tweets, we will not put up with another lockdown. Lockdowns are nonsensical and achieve nothing other than kicking the can down the road. Look at Sweden, who never locked down and have no vaccine passports. They have some of the lowest cases and deaths in Europe, says Alex. Yeah, that's right. Swedish people. Always so perfect. They didn't do any of that. The difference between us and the Swedes, apart from a foot, about a foot, is they have trust in their government. Can you believe that? Yes, they actually trust and respect their government. So when their government asks them politely to do something, then the Swedes do it straight away. And the government asks them to, don't get all hugger-mugger. Even if you're doing hygge.
Disgusting.
Even if you're doing hot hygge with each other, don't get hugger-mugger. That's what they said. And the Swedes said, oh, okay. That's the major reason why they haven't got, many infections. And, God, it seems like so long ago that I was extolling the virtues of Sweden's approach to this. It seems like a lifetime ago. By the way, another podcast that I do, as well as the one that I do with Carol McGiffin, is called The Nick Abbot Habit. And that's from old shows. And for a while there, I've been clipping up bits, like the funny bits of old shows, leading up to when COVID first hit. And it was so weird listening back to those old shows of, me coming out of the news, the news having reported that, 4 people have this strange thing that has been reported in China. And then we're talking about it and joshing with each other. And, well, it's a good job that's not happening here, eh? And so, it's... and, of course, we were also getting up to the point that we were going to bung a bob for Big Ben's bong, which is about as asinine and childish as we are with, the current regime, eh, Bodge? Bung a bob for Big Ben's bong is what he said when we were going to leave the evil European Union. No! And it's been uphill ever since. Yes?
No.
Not really. Turns out it wasn't Project Fear, it was Project Fact. Every single thing that the Ramonas said has come to be true. Still, never mind, it's only money and life. 0345 6060 973. Let's have a call in Tottenham. Saul.
Oh, hi Nick. Thanks for taking my call. I just thought I'd like to. You often say that. Well, they can.
Oh, another one of these mobile phones that doesn't work as a phone.
Hello?
Yes, there you are.
Can you hear me now?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I've often heard you sort of mentioned, British workers don't want these jobs and that's what's happened. I'm not going to dispute that because obviously there's a problem, but I thought to myself, it bothers me, that statement. And one the idea about a British worker, I mean, I sort of would rephrase that as anyone who sort of is settled here and might be thinking long-term here. And I've often think to myself, there's a culture that needs to happen for these people, to entice people into these types of jobs, which have been based on a culture. And I use that word culture because that's a sort of how a business model is created of just going to one town in a particular Eastern European country and hiring a lot of people who probably know each other, who probably come over as a group and are happy to live in one place like a farm for fruit picking for 6 months, or maybe I'm just using one example.
Yeah.
But I just feel like the debate would be interesting if, now that that's happened, and especially COVID, people are reevaluating what's important and the sort of balance they want in life. I thought, well, what is it that, what do businesses and what is the new culture that needs to happen? So the idea about this British people don't want those type of jobs, that statement in itself becomes a negative ideology. So this like the idea about rubbish jobs.
I'm not sure that that's right. Would you want to do those jobs? Would you want to live in a hut away from where your family lives for I don't know how much they earn, not much, for the backbreaking job of fruit picker or potato gouger or whatever it is that they do in the middle of a field and a farm. You wouldn't want to do that job, neither would I. Doesn't make us bad people. We're doing different jobs, Saul. It's not like we're lying around getting benefits and smoking a joint and watching afternoon television all day long.
But that's what that job has become through the culture of how they've chosen to pick their labour. So if that culture is not available, if that way of funding your business is not available, maybe the idea of, maybe we don't, we will change our business model. People don't have to come and live on the farm. Maybe we'll make hours more flexible. Maybe we can change our crops.
But you have to pick the fruit when it's ripe.
Yes, but then you can do. People can do promotions. It can become, you could get. It could be something that students might want to do.
They don't want to do it.
Well, I don't. I'm just using an example. I've noticed, for example, in the fabrication industry, because I've just started to get into fabrication. Like a few years back, the idea about working flexible hours was unheard of. It was 7 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the evening.
Yeah.
And then I've looked into, also prices of what people are willing to pay. And I've noticed over the last couple of years, especially the last year, that people are saying, well, actually, you don't have to work 5 days a week from 7 till 5. Now you can work from 7 till 2.
In some jobs, yes, but in most jobs, they have to work set hours on set days, and they have to show up in person. And
no, I'm not saying that, but I've just noticed that in order for businesses to start to attract what you call the jobs which people don't want and have relied on cheap labour, we're having to tap into what do people who live here and have a long-term interest in living in this country.
Well, I don't know what it is that you're suggesting, but what should farmers do if a crop becomes pickable and it needs to be picked right now? What are you supposed to do? I mean, it needs to get picked when it needs to get picked.
I don't know, but that's an interesting conversation. I'm sure that it's not. The answer can't just be, the only way we can grow crops is by going to Romania and buy one town and get 100 people. That can't be the business model. There's got to be, and they will have to change their crops. They'll have to think of another way.
Change their crops? What would you have us eat?
You can't just say, now look what Brexit's done. I think there's a really good conversation to be had, which is rather than use that's a rubbish job. This is I don't want to use bad words, but all jobs can be fantastic.
No, they can't.
Yes, they can.
No, they can't be. They cannot be fantastic. All jobs cannot be fantastic. Do me a favour. Most jobs are a drudge and they're boring.
No, they're not.
They are. I've done so many jobs other than this one, and every single one of them was a drudge and it was boring.
Well, there can be that, but I think people at companies are having to work harder at making jobs not drudge and boring and investing a bit more long-term in people's general balance of well-being.
Right, so, but there are some jobs that you can't change. If you are a fruit picker, you can't change the trees to produce only fruit when it's nice out and space it apart so that you can do it casually all year long.
Let's use that example of trees. Okay, I think it's a nice example because when I used to tour the UK because I'm a musician, there used to be, let's just use the apples, for example. There's the big apple harvest. Yeah. There's massive apple harvest in the UK. Right. And what I tended to see in the apple harvest was a culture of, it's based really around cider drinking, which obviously has its, community virtues. But a lot of the people would come together, the whole community would come together, and they'd all pick the apples of the farm.
You're talking about Cider with Rosie. That was a TV program. That's not real life. What are you on about, Saul? We're talking about farmers who produce hundreds of tons of apples. Not somebody who's got an apple tree in their back garden and they go and have a little picking party in September. Saul, we're talking about major businesses here.
Yeah, major businesses. I'm talking about major businesses too, but I'm saying the culture around picking apples is very different to the culture around picking fruits.
Apples are fruits.
Yeah, but the culture of picking apples in this country, a lot of people will chip in and help just for the fun of it.
Saul, you've got no idea what you're talking about. We're talking about agribusiness here, not somebody who's just got an apple tree in their back garden. That's ridiculous. But anyway, it's been kind of. It's been interesting, I suppose. Interesting is the word. Yeah, I don't really get what you're... I mean, I know what you're saying, but what you're saying doesn't actually add up. Doesn't make sense. But I think I've taken it about as far as I can. Plus, there's a break due. But thanks for that. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. And if you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC.
84850. What's he got to be depressed about?
Oh, please, where do I even begin? Jim texts... Nick, the leader of the Scottish Tories, Douglas Ross, has apologised today for not declaring additional earnings to his salary, saying he's deeply sorry. He said,
I am very sorry that I screwed up. Totally I am so sorry. You just don't know how sorry I am. I'm sorry.
I guess he thought it was a good idea to sneak out the confession whilst the media are preoccupied with COP26, says Jim. So it'd be nice if you could give him a wee mention. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, I can give him a wee mention. Douglas Ross blasted for own goal after failing to declare referee payments. He's a football referee. Yeah. This is from in the Herald. According to a report in the Herald, the Tory failed to declare £28,218.57p in outside earnings from his second job as an MSP and third job as a football referee. Wow. Yeah. I think that argument, that whole argument, has got skewed a bit. We seem to have stepped speedily over the bit about MPs taking money from outside interests, companies and millionaires and billionaires, and acting in their interests rather than our interests. That, to me, is the story. Another story is that they're doing second, third and fourth and fifth jobs. Don't conflate the two. You can do a second, third and fourth and fifth job and it just be taking time away from what you should be doing, which is a much less serious crime, in my opinion, than taking money from outside sources, companies, or the rich, and acting in their interests rather than our interests. That's way more serious. But the sort of news cycle seems to have just swept past that and is now concentrating on second jobs. I don't think they should have any second jobs, and I don't think the House of Lords should exist. Unelected bureaucrats. I thought that's why we were supposed to be leaving the EU. So we're not led by unelected bureaucrats. We got more unelected bureaucrats than they do in China. Jim says, oh no, I read that. Richard emails, a lot of angry people out there tonight. That'll be all those winners celebrating their Brexit benefits. Best of luck, says Richard. I appreciate it. It's been waiting the longest. I'll be totally fair about this. Regent's Park. Hello, Vance.
Hi, Nick. Enjoying your programme as usual. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nick, last Saturday, I sort of raised some ideas about Johnson's character to try to explain the way he gets away with everything.
Yeah.
And do you remember I suggested that he's the sort of guy who will do any type of harm so long as it keeps himself in the limelight and his hands on power. Well, yesterday, Chris Bryant, the chairman of the Parliamentary Conduct Committee, was interviewed by journalists. And he recalled being at Oxford at the same time as Johnson, who was then president of the Oxford Union. And Chris said, you know, he was then almost exactly as he is now.
Well, we know it predates that. We know how he was at school because of that famous letter that teacher, his master, sent to his dad, which I read out again last week. I may not have it with me, but I'll find it. It's very, very easy to find. It's everywhere.
Yeah, that's right. But the journalist then asked Bryant if he meant Johnson took a relaxed attitude to rules. And Bryant said, I don't think he's relaxed at all. It's quite the opposite of relaxed. He thinks he's Samson. He wants to pull the temple down on top of his head. And what is irritating, particularly for the new Tory MPs, is that they had no idea what sort of deluge would come. Calling him Samson, I mean, that just shows how destructive he is.
Why would he want to do that, though? Why would he want to pull the building down on his head?
Because he doesn't want anybody else to have the limelight or to take the glory. You know, if there's going to be some great denouement, some end of the world, which Brexit pretty well is going to be anyway, Johnson wants to be there.
End of the world. That might be stretching it a bit. End of the world might not be the end of the world. I think it's more likely that this country will just slowly deflate. It will slowly become less and less important, less and less wealthy. We won't notice any great step change. It'll just be a gradual malaise.
Yeah, I agree with you. But don't you find Brian's sort of characterization terrifying?
Well, I find it a bit bizarre that he would say Samson. I mean, that's the last thing that I would say Boris Johnson was. I mean, it makes him sound like a superhero.
Yeah, Chris Bryant used to be a vicar, so that, biblical metaphors and analogies come naturally to him. But one other thing that he said, Chris Bryant, he's dead against this levelling up agenda. And I think he's right, actually, because this levelling up agenda means that individual ministers are doling out pots of money to constituencies that they decide are worth it. And it's going to lead to corruption, isn't it, Nick?
Lead to? I think we're there already, Vance. The areas that are levelling up, he said, waggling his fingers in the air to denote inverted commas, also, coincidentally, happen to be the ones that are either safe Tory seats or the seats that the Tories have their eye on. It seems more gerrymandering than levelling up, but what do I know? All right, thanks a lot, Vance. Samson, you say? Wasn't it the Express that had him on the front page as some superhero or other the other day? It's absolutely comical. I mean, so desperate to prop him up. How's that going, by the way?
Oh, fabulous.
James Fenton is a bloke that I follow on Twitter. He's a comedian. I don't actually know anything about him other than that he writes funny things on Twitter. And he posted a copy of that front page with Boris Johnson looking like Superman, just with the comment, hid from Good Morning Britain in a fridge. That's all we need to know. 0345 6060 973. Let's have Vancouver. Nick.
Hi, Nick. I had to ring and sort of answer all of these numpties that are going on about how terrible it is to have migrant workers for the sort of economy of the UK, and this is why Brexit was necessary.
I don't think that's what he was saying. He seemed to be saying that there's something essentially wrong with the British people, that we don't want to do dead-end, bad-paying jobs. And I think that it's the opposite of that. I think that it's a quite reasonable and commendable decision to make, that you don't want to do those jobs. You'd rather do something better.
Well, I mean, yes, because no one else in the Western world, so to speak, wants to do those jobs either.
Of course.
Every country brings in migrant labour. The US economy is utterly run on Latino migrant labour.
Yeah.
I mean, they pick, build and do, as is the Canadian. We have Central Americans that come up to Canada and pick our fruit as well, because Canadians don't want to do those jobs either. What we like to do is supervise the Latinos.
And that's exactly what happens, as a matter of fact. People say that, all these people are coming over here and taking our jobs. A, they're not taking your jobs. And B, what it does allow is that for the bottom level of jobs to be done by other people, which raises us by extension onto the level above them, which makes us the managers of those people.
Exactly. And, you would think and it's not just on your, when you read the Daily Express or even the Guardian when they have open commentary, you would think that there were Jarrow marches of English people unemployed marching to Whitehall in order to complain for the fact that they're having to live in sort of holes in the ground in the north or what have you, a la the 1930s, while Polish and Romanians laughed at them in their wonderful jobs as they marched by.
And wave their money at them as they sweep by in their Bentleys. No, that's not the case at all. We have very little unemployment in this country. Just about enough to get by as a healthy economy. It's about 3% is what an economist would call full employment. But we also have an enormous number, hundreds of thousands of job vacancies, which is that's the difficulty. Is there isn't an enormous pool of British people just lying about the place, availing themselves of benefits. We're working. But there's also this enormous number of jobs that used to be done by people that we screamed at for 5 years to get out of our country, and then for some unfathomable reason, they left our country.
Everybody was happy in practice. Possibly not in theory. Maybe people didn't like those Eastern European accents when they were on the train, and that annoyed them. But that's not economics, that's racism. But in practice, the whole bloody system worked well, as it does in Canada, as it does in the US. And the really talented migrants, we kept them. You know, the slightly less talented ones go back to Romania or Poland with the money, and they help Romania and Poland, and those countries do well out of the deal as well. And the really bright ones stay here and become millionaires and billionaires, and eventually end up becoming lords because they have 3 million quid. That's how the British system works.
Apparently so. Yeah, it's the best politics money can buy. Yeah.
Yes. I don't understand why people are upset at a system that worked so well.
If you could get into a time machine and go back 10 years and ask people in this country what was the most important thing that they were concerned about, what would they like to change the most? Europe would not even enter their minds to speak out loud. No one was upset with being in the European Union. It just wasn't an issue. And then suddenly, an enormous amount of dark money came from, well, we still don't have any idea, but we have our suspicions, and supposed grassroots campaigns, which were nothing of the sort. They were highly organised by people with ill on their mind, persuaded us that what we were actually enjoying and getting a lot of profit from was actually a bad thing, and that we must end it. It's very, very curious what's happened about all of that. They fashioned a problem that didn't exist and then made it our number one cause of concern. It was actually it was genius, really. Nobody was upset about being in the European Union until we were told that it was something to be upset about. It was almost like this entire country has been hypnotised. And a good number of people still haven't woken up yet. Nick, I've got to go, but thanks for that. 0345 6060 973. Look at the time. It's 11:30. The news headlines with Zora Sullivan.
Are you trying to tell me that this is your act?
Sadly, yes. This is all I've got. Robin texts, just been watching Abbot on the BBC. Had to switch it off after an hour to take a shower to calm down. Far too Swedish for my grey English blood, he says. Don't know what that means. Desiree texts, scrapping the BTEC funding is Johnson's version of pinching the milk from school kids. Levelling up is creaming off the education system as well as the NHS. Didn't he do well, says Desiree. Well, if the plan is to defund the country, then he's done very, very well indeed. Good job there, Bodge. Woolwich, Richard.
Oh, good evening. Hello, Nick.
Richard.
Hello. Well, it's a very serious people on tonight.
I know.
Don't they realise it's Saturday?
I don't know how they get my number.
Yeah, I mean, can't they score some pot or something and just kind of relax?
Just say no. Just say no, thank you. I mean, good manners don't cost nothing, do they?
Be polite.
Go ahead.
Hey, I've got COVID.
How is that?
Well, it's really weird because I had it 2 years ago, or 1.5 years ago, and I was sort of in bed with it.
Mm.
But I've had my 2 vaccinations,
right?
And it's just so mild. It's just like I had 1 day of sniffle, and that was it. And because I had some sniffles, I just tested myself on the on the self kit.
Oh, yeah.
And just realised I had it.
Now, wait a minute, how do you test yourself on, what kind of a test is that?
You stick that blasted thing up your nose.
Up your nose.
Down the back of your throat.
Now, I don't think that people can actually do that themselves, because you're supposed to do it until it hurts. But people don't want to hurt themselves, so I don't think it's the kind of test that you can take yourself, is it?
Well, you see, that's the point. You see, if you don't do it right, it cancels out. It sort of negates it. But no, you have to basically do it until you vomit, and then it works.
Well, let's not get carried away. I think the instructions are that you have to stick it up your nose till you tear up, and put it down your throat till you gag. That's what they tell them to do.
Yeah, and I've been doing it every day.
Wow.
But the thing is, Nick, the weird thing is, I've had it for 3 days, only for 3 days.
Yeah.
And I've been testing myself now, and I don't have it anymore. But because I had it through the self-test, and then I went through the PCR, which is basically where you send it to the lab, they've come back and said, yes, you've got it.
Right.
And now they're telling me to stay in for 10 days, but now I don't have it.
Huh.
Yeah, there you go.
So what are you going to do?
Well, I'm just going to be like I'm on holiday for 10 days. It's fantastic, really, isn't it? I'm going to listen to backlogs of your shows.
Podcasts,
Yeah, podcasts, exactly. Yeah.
Well, it's an excellent time of the year to be stuck inside, because it's not particularly pleasant out. Plus, it's dark all the time.
Well, I planted some bulbs today, so...
Bulbs?
Yeah. I put some daffodils out, so...
Well, you just stare at them till they till they poke through. You got a long wait, mate.
Yeah, I'm thinking. You know, when you're going through a sort of this moment of this kind of where you've got the lurgy, basically.
Yeah.
You kind of want to think about something amazing. So I visualized spring, and then I went and planted some daffodils.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like an excellent plan. And I hope you enjoy your time off.
Yeah, thanks, Nick.
All right, cheers, Richard. 0345 6060 973. I am ministering to the ill. This text says, thanks for introducing me to AC/DC. You recommended a YouTube live show. Was totally entranced for hours. Yeah, I tweeted that thing last weekend, I think. Unbelievable show. Absolutely incredible. If you want to see a crowd go berserk to a bunch of really old men staggering around a stage, then that is the show for you. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, it was just the crowd. It was filmed in Argentina at a football stadium. River Plate, I think it's called. And AC/DC did a big show. Huge. And I don't know, maybe they're starved for entertainment in Argentina. I have no idea. But they just went off. It's just so great to watch. And it's on YouTube. Ask for it by name. AC/DC, River Plate. I think River Plate is the name of the stadium. Argentina. Fan-bloomin'-tastic. This text says, there was a guy here in Edinburgh who ordered a pizza delivery. Opened the box and the pizza appeared to have no topping at all. He complained to the company who had confirmed its delivery. It turned out he'd opened the box upside down. Listeners with material.
Oh, no.
Let's have Plymouth. Hello, Mark. Is there anybody out there, Mark, in Plymouth? Oh, never mind, too late. Derek in Humberside.
Hello, Nick.
Derek.
I noticed Al Johnson will be trying to take the credit for this COP26 agreement that's been announced tonight.
Yeah, I don't think there's much to take credit for. I mean, what have they agreed? They've agreed that it really is awful and something should be done.
Yeah, but he'll be trying to, take the credit and move the situation on from his...
Boris Johnson saves the world. That'll be the headline in the Express.
Exactly, in a Batman suit. You can just see it now, can't you?
I can, yeah. I don't think Batman suits come in his size, by the way. I mean, try as he might, I doubt he'll be able to find one.
But apparently, there's a couple. I just read on Twitter. There's a couple of articles. One from Reverend Rees Morgan. One from Grant Chaps. That apparently, something to do with lobbying, to do with the runway that Mr. Chaps used up with his. I presume he's got some sort of light aircraft, or maybe he's got. Maybe he's got a Boeing 737.
Grant Chaps has got his own aircraft.
Well, that's what it said, that he's been lobbying against. There must be after building on some airfield that he uses.
Right. Well, I've got no idea about that. I haven't seen that story, so I can't let you continue in that vein. But what's Smug done?
He's something to do with the old. What's that island where Mr. Cox? Something to do with £6 million of undeclared funds from there, apparently.
Right, well, I've got no idea about that either, but...
You're better informed than I am. I don't know anything.
Yeah, he doesn't know anything. We've asked him for a response, and he said...
You're better informed than I am. I don't know anything.
Thanks a lot, Derek. New news or opinion. I've got no idea about either of those stories, but it'll probably be all over the front pages tomorrow. It's just painful. It just goes on and on and on. And so it should, by the way. I mean, it would be poor on the part of Fleet Street if they just blurted it all out on one day and then went on to something else, which tends to be the way with the big stories. They'll get it all out on one day, 2 at the most, and then they'll think, well, we've got to have something else now to get people to pick up our paper off the stands. We can't keep printing the same story over and over, or different iterations of the same story. But it's that drip, drip, drip every day, something else that really brings it home to people that what we've got here is it's just not right. It's just wrong, is what it is. I mean, it always has been, I suspect. It's always been this way. It's just it never gets, the light never gets shone upon it. I mean, there's another one here. Hang on a minute, where is it? This one went under the radar, not very well reported so far. Perhaps it will get a bit more meat on the bone tomorrow. Tory MPs are sitting on controversial Westminster pressure groups, while also being paid thousands of pounds from vested interests in the same industries, the Daily Mail has found. They really have changed, haven't they, the Daily Mail? It's like they've done a U-turn. Big swerve from the Daily Mail. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
They hold often lucrative advisory roles to these Tory MPs with major businesses, while also helping to run unofficial parliamentary bodies that promote the same sectors. It's heightened concerns that all-party parliamentary groups are the next controversy in the wake of the Owen Paterson sleaze lobbying saga and Sir Geoffrey Cox's £5.5 million second career as a barrister. Unbelievable. There are almost 750 all-party parliamentary groups devoted to everything from individual countries to industries and sports, which try to get ministers to attend their events and then take up their causes. Some MPs and peers sit on dozens of them, and they're allowed to host meetings in Westminster rooms and produce official-looking reports to influence government policy. Yet the groups have no formal status and can be funded by private companies, trade bodies, or even foreign governments. Huh. I mean, are we stunned yet? That Boris Johnson would have the nerve to stand up and say that this is not remotely a corrupt country. I mean, first of all, it's embarrassing that he would say that in front of people, never mind about in front of the world. And B, oh yes we are, oh yes we are, oh yes we are. Already, this is pretty much a money laundering racket for the international criminal super rich. It's what we do for a living. All of those shiny blocks of executive flatlets that are ruining London's skyline forever. You look up and there's barely a light on. It's because there's nobody living there. It's because the companies that make them, which aren't British companies. They're Chinese and Malaysian and who knows where they come from. They're selling them off-plan to people back where they live. Now, why would somebody buy a flat in a country that they don't live in a town that they'll probably never visit, and will never set foot in those flats, other than to wash their ill-gotten gains? That's what we do for a living. The estate agents, lawyers, accountants, banks, of course, that's where the money is, honey. All working together as one to launder the ill-gotten gains of the international criminal super-rich, and this country right here is where they come to do it, more than any other country in the world. I mean, that investigator of the mafia famously said that this country is the most corrupt country on earth. Now, he didn't mean that all of the people in it are corrupt. He just meant by value, by the amount of money that we wash clean. We are number one. And now the Mail has found that at least 10 Conservative MPs who are chairman or vice chairman of all party parliamentary groups are also being paid or receiving free trips and tickets from organisations within the same sectors. Just on and on and on. And finally, the people of this country appear to have woken up from being hypnotised. Finally. Took a while. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC.
Right, so what are we doing?
Given we are doing a radio show, Steve texts, there are various Christmas pizzas available now. I don't know what their toppings are, but they're all deep pan, crisp and even. Oh my God. A listener with material.
Oh no.
Zach texts, you can get 2 Chicago Town pizzas for £1.49 from Iceland, and Detroit and Chicago are both from the Great Lakes tri-state area. Yum. Are those two lines in any way connected? You can get a pizza from Iceland, and Chicago and Detroit are both from the Great Lake tri-state area. Yum. Right. I've got no idea what... I think maybe just he had two things on his mind and he wanted to impart both of them. They're not really connected in any way. He just wanted to blurt it all out. And he blurted it all out all over me. Detroit and Chicago, both from the Great Lake tri-state area. Yes, 5 Great Lakes, I think you'll find. Superior, Michigan, Huron, Erie and Ontario. As you will know if you have ever investigated the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald.
Rock and roll!
Get Gordon Lightfoot on the phone right now. I mean it. Leeds. Hello, Alex.
Oh, good evening, Nick. How are you?
Good, thanks.
I'm just ringing to see if you'd seen the further ongoing revelations in the Observer tomorrow regarding the Prime Minister and his previous relationship with Jennifer Arcuri.
No, I haven't. It's on the front page of the Observer.
Yeah, it'll be on the Guardian website. That's where I saw it.
Oh, wait a minute. Here it is. Hang on a second. That's on their front page. How Johnson pledged help for my business to win my love, says Jennifer Arcuri.
Indeed.
There's a picture of her on a park bench.
So the nub of it, basically, a bit like the ghost of Christmas past, when he was Mayor of London, as we already know, she accompanied him on various fact-finding missions and so on, as well as helping him use Excel spreadsheet programs and giving him pole dancing.
They were vigorously looking for facts. Yes,
absolutely. But no, I think the revelation, just to get serious for a moment, is it could reopen the ongoing investigation that the Greater London Authority is conducting, and it could lead to criminal charges. I think it's just another example of ongoing sleaze and adding to the woes of the current government.
Yeah, the police will look at all of the evidence before coming to the conclusion that he is not guilty.
Well, I'm not so sure about that, actually. I mean, I know the Independent Office for the Police Conduct, who were originally looking into it, because of his role as Mayor of London and being responsible for the Met. Now, they did an initial report which said that there was no misconduct to be found.
Right.
But if another GLA member makes a complaint, they can look into it.
Yeah, can being the operative word.
And given what was is purportedly quoted from diaries that Jennifer Curie gave to the former journalist and documentary maker John Ware, she does, other than the lurid details of Boris Johnson's libido, it does. I'll pause that for a moment, but no, the serious point is about him. He boasts apparently about ignoring the advisors at the mayoralty about the potential conflict of interests and promoting Mr. Curie's fledgling business, which, if you remember, she received £126,000 in grants from the mayoralty office.
Worth every penny, I'm sure. Absolutely nothing is going to happen, Alex. You know that as well as I.
I don't.
Yeah, well, you can hope all you like, but that's not who we are. It's not where we are.
But I think another reason it's come back into vogue or into maybe public consciousness is the fact that whilst obviously he was in Glasgow for COP26, when asked by whichever member of the media pack about those who commit wrongdoing in public office should be punished, and he absolutely obviously was saying that in relation not specifically to Geoffrey Cox but to anybody, MP or councillor.
Top quality gaslighting there, Bodger. Excellent work.
It'll be interesting, as I said, if this does gain traction again.
It won't.
What will happen? Okay, well, I take your point, Nick.
The entire edifice of the establishment will intervene and squash this flat. Believe me.
But if you look at all the negative headlines, which you've mentioned already during your show this evening,
right, well, that's different.
It's not just the usual suspects, though, is it? It's not just the Guardian or the Mirror.
No, it's the Mail.
It's the Mail, the Express. But
I think the Mail is doing excellent work just lately.
I would agree, but I think what it's doing, there's two things really. It's whether it casts the Conservative Party as the sleazy party on the take, corrupt, or whether it tars all MPs as being corrupt. I think that's the only thing which I have concern about.
Yeah, well, let's just concentrate on who's actually running the country, and we'll deal with those that aren't later. How about that? All right, thanks a lot, Alex. All right, here's that story. This is from the Observer, apparently. It's on their website. According to that chap, it's on their front page. Extraordinary details of how Bodger Johnson allegedly overruled the advice of staff to promote business interests of his former lover, Jennifer Curie, and win her affections were revealed in a previously unpublished diary extract by the US business person. According to one entry, the then London mayor even offered her... Wait a minute, what? I better scan ahead here. This might not be suitable for family listening.
Disgusting.
According to one entry, the then London mayor even offered to... Even offered to be her throttle in an attempt to accelerate her business career. Claims that may reopen the possibility of Johnson facing a potential criminal investigation into misconduct allegations. And the jury has retired. And while the jury is out of the room, the judge has declared him not guilty. Still, there's at least we haven't got any corruption in this country. At least we don't have any corruption in this country. And we know that that's true because Bodger Johnson said so. Ain't that right, Bodge? Yes. We got the leader of Afghanistan on the phone. He wants to know how this regime is getting away with it. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. And if you're on Twitter, it's at LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbot, LBC.
And
enjoy working with people.
Said everybody who does not work with Matt Hans Hancock. They said,
Don't touch me, or I'll kill you.
Anybody missing him yet?
No.
Not really. We'll let you know if we do. Is Boris Johnson capable of telling the truth on any subject at any time? I mean, really. The great news is, he said, that 192 countries had signed the death knell for coal power. Yeah, that would only be true if it actually had happened. But as it didn't, it isn't. They didn't sign the death knell for coal power. That sounds like this. The actual bell that is associated with coal power is this one. Too many people making too much money, honey. They haven't signed the death knell. They've signed a slow fade out at some point to be decided in the future. Probably never. So they came out of that whole farrago by saying that we must strengthen emissions targets by 2030. Not meet emissions targets, but strengthen them by 2030. So that was worth it, wasn't it?
No.
Really? I mean, come on. So that's it. It's exactly like I predicted. I don't like saying I told you so, but I told you so, I told you so, I told you so. The conclusion is it really is awful and something should be done. See you next year. And then they all get on their private planes and fly out north, south, east and west, causing more carbon emissions than an active volcano. No one is going to do anything about it until it's too late. And we'll keep pretending that the various weather events that seem to be becoming more and more aggressive and serious by the week have got nothing to do with it. It's just weather, they'll say. That's it's just that's yesterday's story. Let's talk about something else now. Let's continue to ignore it until it's too late. And you only know when it's too late because some of these things, I mean, I've got no idea what I'm talking about on this or any other subject, but from what I hear by listening to experts is that when things change, they quite often don't fade into a change. It will be completely different from one day to the next. Still, never mind. It's just, all life on Earth that's at stake. Who cares? Ben tweets, how can my fellow San Francisco resident not mention the world-famous San Francisco sourdough pizza? It is simply the best. Sourdough pizza. That does sound like it might be pretty good. Maria says, oh, Nick, you ought to try Purezza's Pesto Manifesto Pizza. What? It's amazing, says Maria. What, like science fiction, you mean? She says, sorry for any spelling mistakes, but I've got new glasses and I can barely see my phone. I think you should get other glasses, Maria. I mean, glasses aren't something that you get used to. It's not like you put them on and they become more comfortable, like a pair of jeans. You're supposed to see right straight away. Purezza's Pesto Manifesto Pizza. Okay. I don't really know what it is or where you get it. This says, I know this is starting to sound like a travelogue, but the best pizza I ever had was on New Zealand's North Island near Oyster Bay. Loaded with delicious seafood and not square, says that texter. One of the best pizzas I ever had was in Bognor Regis.
What?
Yeah, Bognor Regis. They got a park in Bognor Regis, and it's a delight. It really is. Hang on a minute. Wait. I'm trying to do something while I'm speaking. I can only do one thing at a time, and barely that. No, Nick, you're doing very well. You're doing your best. Yeah, there's a park in Bognor Regis which has got a pizza place in it. Oh, so yummy. course, you go to a place and you have a great meal, and then, a couple of years go by and you go back and it's either shut or burnt to the ground, or it's under new management and it's not remotely it's not remotely like what you had when you went there first. So don't take my word for it. I'm just saying, historically speaking, it certainly used to be great. I don't know whether it is now. I've got no idea whether it even is open, or whether the park is still there. Joan texts, "Oh, Nick, really? Bodger looks infinitely better in photographs wearing a mask." Well, that is true. Even Boris Johnson would admit that.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Yeah, much better wearing a mask. Did you see the state of him when he showed up to show his respects, he says, waving his fingers in the air to denote in inverted commas. When he showed his respects in front of the, I'm not sure it was the cenotaph. It was some, something to do with the 11th. God, what an absolute it is deliberate the way he looks. It's not by accident. It's a deliberate look. It's his logo. But you think that he'd smarten himself up just a bit. I mean, iron your shirt, for crying out loud. Comb your hair. Would it kill you to comb your hair just for one shot, just for one photograph of you looking relatively smart? Is it really going to impact your brand so much that you can't even bring yourself to look smart for that? Andrew texts, "Good morning from Singapore. I travelled home on a late night train on Saturday. Everyone appeared to be happy, sober, silent, and 100% masked. Vaccination proof, you show it when you enter the transport system. Simples," says Andrew. Yeah, well, Singapore, though. I mean, step out of line in Singapore. Big trouble, huge. Joan texts, oh no, I've read that one. Michelle says, "Ploughing more money into the NHS doesn't seem to be the answer anymore. I'm wondering if its privatisation is inevitable under a Tory government. I'm interested in your opinion on this," says Michelle. Well, look no further than an article that I was reading today, which details all of the Conservative MPs who, just by strange coincidence, also happen to have second jobs in private medical companies. Very, very strange. It's curious, almost like it's part of a scheme. So many Conservative MPs are getting money from doing work, whatever that involves, lending their name, I suspect, in many cases, to their headed notepaper, doing work for these private medical organisations. Curious. Almost like it's a plan. Here's a thing that I've been carrying around for a while. It's about the NHS. Hang on a minute. Oh, I had it here just moments ago, and it's a story from 2019 about how what an absolute state the NHS was back there. Oh, I had it right here in front of me. Where's it gone? I'm not very good at this job. Oh, I'll find it. Don't you worry about that. But meanwhile, here's a call in Blackheath. Hello, Sue.
Oh, no.
Hello, Sue.
Hi, Nick.
Sue.
I did ring last night. I can't text you because it's all got problems. But
problems?
It doesn't work.
What doesn't work? What doesn't work?
My end. Texting you. I know.
Your end doesn't work. I see.
My God. Nothing at my end works at the moment. It's just a quickie. On this COP26,
yeah,
I think we should call it COP out.
Yes.
How about that?
Not much COP. Let's call it that.
That's even better. Even better. I love it.
They're going to try and yank some good story from the jaws of defeat, but good luck with that.
Thanks very much indeed.
Okay.
I'm not going to hang on because I'm busy listening to you.
You've got stuff to do, I understand. You can't hang around chit-chatting with the likes of me. I get it. All right.
Have you heard that sheet of paper yet you were just looking for?
Yes, I do. I've got it right here in the palm of my hand. Thanks for asking. Cheers, Sue. So this is a story from 2017. You know, when they excuse the state of the NHS as being the fault of COVID, it's absolutely nothing we could do about that. It's we've just gone through an unprecedented period, they'll say. Hoping that we all forget what the NHS used to be like before COVID. Can you remember back 2 years? Well, remember back to 2017. COVID had never even been invented. The last 12 months have been the worst in the history of the NHS, says this story. From the 1st of January, February, March, April. 1st of April. Oh, it's 1st of April. April Fool's Day, 2017. But it's an actual real-life story. The following is true. The last 12 months have been the worst in the history of the NHS. England's major A&Es are under record strain, with black alerts being regularly sounded and in some instances wards turning patients away. Last year the A&E crisis spread to other sectors. Ambulance response times have reached critically low levels, with 1/3 of ambulances failing to meet their targets for life-threatening call-outs. The acute sector is bulging with unnecessary admissions, particularly from over 75s, who are presenting themselves at A&Es when they should be cared for by the social care sector that has suffered £5 billion of cuts. Wow, it's almost like the two things are connected. That you cut social care and people tend to get ill and present themselves to hospital because they ain't got no choice. In the community, general practice is on life support. As more is demanded of it, the proportion of the NHS budget that goes to primary care has shrunk. Primary care provides 90% of the consultations in the NHS, yet gets only 8% of the budget. GPs are leaving, new entrants are declining to enter general practice. NHS trusts recorded a deficit in excess of £2 billion last year. Remember, this was written in 2017. This story about the NHS on its last legs is old. It's not got nothing to do with COVID. I mean, COVID didn't help, but the problem predated COVID. Just keep that in mind next time they tell you that it's got nothing to do with them. It's all unprecedented and, everyone has suffered equally all over the world. No, they haven't. No, they haven't. No, they haven't. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. You know, what Bodger and the regime really, really want, well, they may not want it, but it would benefit them enormously. It would take our mind off, their various shenanigans, is a good old-fashioned war. And they might get two at the same time. I'll come to that in just a minute.
I am not one of your fans!
Liz emails, Nick, just never eat a pavement pizza. What does that mean? You mean a pizza that's fallen on the pavement? Well, if it's only been there for, 30, 40 seconds, that's okay, surely. I mean, if it hasn't fallen face down. This says, you're forgetting that he, Bodger, did not wear a mask and sat next to David Attenborough at COP26. No! Yeah, he should have gone just for that. How can you sit next to David Bloomin' Attenborough and not take every precaution? Just because you didn't want to get pictured with a mask in a newspaper. I mean, really, this has gone too far, don't you think? Adam texts, have you tried custard cream in your morning porridge? Just a splash and it makes a huge difference. Also, it's made in Devon and it's yummy. You're welcome. Custard cream. No, I have not in my morning porridge. What I do like is, you can get gold top milk. It's got so much cream in it that it forms a solid plug in the top, and you can winkle it out with a knife and just plop it in the middle of your porridge. Chunks of cream. Suits me. Bognor Regis. Hello, Ash.
Good evening to you, Nicholas.
Ash.
Hello there.
Yes, sir.
Read your Bognor Regis pizza.
Yeah.
Hotham Park.
Is that what it's called? Hotham Park?
Yeah, that's where you had it, yeah.
They have one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. I went there in like a couple of summers ago, and there's this sort of pit in which grows enormous grasses, like about 20 foot high. Do you know the thing I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's a big park on the east side of Bognor Regis that was created by, whether he's got anything to do with slavery or not, I don't know, but some benefactor.
Right.
And it's the lungs of Bognor. It's a lovely park, big trees and all that sort of thing. But the pizza, I've had one there. They're absolutely gorgeous. You're right.
Still there, are they?
Yeah. Oh, I haven't been for a while because of the lockdown, but when I last went, they're absolutely fantastic.
It was very surprising because I wasn't expecting anything. I was just in a park and I didn't know where else to eat, and it was right there. And I thought, oh, all right, I'll have one of them then. And
well, that's what I was going to ask you. What the hell? Nobody comes to Bognor. What were you doing in Bognor Regis?
Well, I sort of run out of other nearby like coastal resorts, and so I must admit that Bognor Regis was down the bottom of my list. But I'm glad that I went.
Surprised. Well, you're more than welcome back.
All right. Well, I'll see you at the pizza oven. Thanks a lot, Ash. Yeah, but they do have this amazing thing. It's one of the most astounding. I don't know how to describe it really, but pieces of vegetation I've ever seen. It's like a pit, and I'm sure it maybe had a pond in it, but it was dry at the time. It was in the middle of summer. But these grasses were maybe 20 feet high. So you were standing at the level of about halfway up, because there's a raised part. The pit goes down below ground level, and all of these grasses were just catching the wind and moving in the most extraordinary way.
Groovy.
And it was mesmerising.
Yowza.
A little part of me is mesmerised to this day. Bognor, it's all right. That's about as far as I can go, really. They got the sea there. They got a sort of a long park which goes along the sea shore, which is quite nice. And then there's that park that chap was just talking about, and the pizza. Ooh, so yummy. Other than that, I couldn't really see anything to recommend Bognor, but it's worth a day out, as long as the weather's nice. Educational, this programme, isn't it?
No.
Joe texts, I had a tooth extraction yesterday. Hey, Joe.
Stop whining.
Done privately, says Joe. I had phoned 9 dentists, but NHS waiting lists are through the roof. The village where I live have 800 people waiting on the NHS. Oh, my God. No chance of being seen until this time next year. Good job I had 500 quid in loose change in my purse, says Joe. Yeah, it does seem to be a deliberate policy, doesn't it, to just run down at the NHS until people just can't stand it anymore, and they go private. And in a few years' time, everyone's going private. Yeah, 800 people waiting on the NHS in one village. God. Edward texts, is your motorcar so elderly it starts only with a magneto ignition, a crank handle inserted into the front of the vehicle? If that is the case, I suggest we crowdfund to accommodate you to a more suitable and up-to-date automobile. That suits me, Edward, just fine. Please send any money that you raise to the following address. Cindy says, thanks, Nick. All that talk of pizzas has made me hungry, but the nearest pizza place to me that does coleslaw closed at 11. Coleslaw? Really, you pick your pizza parlour dependent on whether they do coleslaw? Okay. Chris says some British people don't want to work on farm. Oh, this is a conversation I was having some long while ago with some bloke who was suggesting that it was a bit difficult to get my head around quite what he was suggesting, but he seemed to think that it reflected poorly on the British people that we didn't want to do dull, badly paid, dead-end jobs. we had imported people who were keen to do dull, badly paid, dead-end jobs. And then after yelling at them for 5 years to get out of our country, they unaccountably, they upsticked and got out of our country, which seems very ungrateful of them. Quite unpatriotic, actually. And his suggestion was that farms should change the way they operate in order to accommodate people who want a better lifestyle than bending over in a field and yanking turnips out the ground. And even though I know nothing about farming, I didn't think that that's quite how farming works. I think crops become ready and then they got to get picked, otherwise they rot, and then you've got to start all over again next year. I don't think fruit and vegetables wait for you to be ready. You've got to be ready for them. Anyway, so Chris says, some British people don't want to work on farms. It's hard work, long hours, low wages and beneath them. Well, the beneath them part is because they're doing other things. Better paid, fewer hours and less back-breaking hard work. Why would you want to do something that is difficult, unpleasant and doesn't pay very well? We don't want to do those jobs. And now that the people who've done those jobs have decided to leave after being screamed at by us to get out of our country, then we find that those jobs aren't being done, to the surprise of absolutely nobody at all who had thought about this for about 10 seconds before we went and made the big mistake at the referendum. Actually, the big mistake was made before the referendum. The big mistake was calling the blooming referendum in the first place. Hey, Dave.
I think this is nonsense.
Yeah, still not missing you, by the way. But we know where to find you if we do. You'll be in the shed where they keep the tools. Hey, I haven't done the war thing yet. Oh, there's big stuff happening out east and down south. World War III may coincide with World War IV. Big stuff happening. I'll get to that in a minute. 0345 6060 973. I should remind you that this and Friday night's show gets put out as a podcast. Oh, we strip the news and the ads out, which means that it takes less time to listen to, so you will use less electricity, and you won't have to sell your house to pay your fuel bill. Ask for it by name on an internet near you. Nick Abbott, The Whole Show. Hey, look at the time. It's 12:30. The news headlines on LBC with Zora Sullivan.
A big sack of monkey nuts.
It is, dear. It is a big sack of monkey nuts. James texts, I used to clean soap out of pipes in a factory in Nottingham in the 1980s. It was great fun. It doesn't sound like it would be great fun. Anyway, he says it was great fun and interesting. It doesn't sound like it would be interesting either. And sometimes I brought the family in to help. Grandma and Grandad scraping soap from the inside of a great pipe. I miss the good old days, says James. Well, that was weird. Shall I dwell on it?
No.
Ollie texts, Hi Nick, today's Tory sleaze update. Geoffrey Cox claimed for 7 taxi rides from his constituency in Devon at £110 per trip, but only attended 3 votes. It's in today's Daily Mail under Tory sleaze. Well, I don't know anything about that. I'll have to look it up. And Trevor emails, politicians are taking second jobs as apple pickers. Well, that's a coincidence, because their first job is pocket pickers. Let's have Southwest France. James.
Hi again, Nick.
James.
I spoke to you a few weeks ago and you asked me what the weather was like down here in France, and I said it was cold like in the UK.
Good. I'm glad to hear it.
Phone down. Hello?
I'm just checking the weather.
There.
One moment, please. Just checking the weather in Nice. It's 53 degrees. Huh. So it's not much better than here.
Well, it's about the same. But when I put the phone down, it reminded me of that Cameron fella that used to be a PM.
Yeah.
And do you remember when we used to have winter fuel allowance for pensioners? I don't know whether it still goes on that, but it helped pensioners during the cold winter months to pay the extras. And we had it for the pensioners that lived in the EU at that time.
Right.
But Mr. Cameron took it upon himself to stop the winter fuel allowance for those living in France.
Well, it's to toughen you up.
Because the mean temperatures, he said, were too high. And, of course, what he'd done is included French dependencies like Guadeloupe and La Réunion, Martinique, that sit near the bloody equator.
Yes.
The crafty
that
devil.
makes as much sense as anything else I've heard this week. Yeah.
But the rub salt in the wound, it was only the decade previously that France held the Winter Olympics.
Right. Yeah, it gets blooming freezing in France. You can ski there. Even in the south of France, it gets freezing.
It certainly does. So, I mean, when Bodger talks about temperatures, about the climate change temperatures, he won't have a clue.
No. Well, on that or any other subject.
Yeah. Wait.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, I'm glad to hear that the weather is awful down there in the south of France, because that's where Carol McGiffin is going back this week, I think.
Oh, right, yeah.
It's going to be raining and snowing.
What?
Yeah, probably a little bit of snow here, there and everywhere, Carol. Don't put your winter woolies away just because you're going to the south of France. Thanks a lot, James. Another James. Oh, no, I've read that. That's something about soap in pipes. Got to clean them out. Paul says, levelling up is the new trickle down. It's a phrase for moving money to the rich while convincing the poor that they're going to get something out of it. Yeah, wasn't it George W. Bush that kept going on about trickle down economics?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the poor waited with upturned expectant faces for some of that money to trickle down all over them. Not so far. They're still waiting. Michael texts, I've done many home tests, and since I have been doing them, I have started getting regular nosebleeds. Before COVID, I rarely got nosebleeds. Well, yeah, you jam a stick up your nose, you'll get nosebleeds, I expect. The one may be connected with the other. Edward texts, Nick, Prince Charles will be 73 on the stroke of midnight. Happy birthday, Charles. Yes, happy birthday, Charles. Is it his birthday or his other birthday? How many birthdays does he get? Do all of their majesties get several birthdays for extra presents? If you get their birthdays in order, they get extra presents.
If you get it in order, you get extra points.
Or something like that. Streatham. Hello, Penny.
Yes.
Penny.
Yep. Yeah,
Penny.
hi.
Yes, Penny.
Yes, okay. So, Nick, love your programme. I should be asleep by now, but can't help myself listening to you.
Thanks.
My point is between the pizza and access to the NHS.
Mm.
And I am passionate about the NHS. I've worked in it. But the point I want to make is that when you try and access the NHS, you don't get to the expert first time. You end up with receptionists or people trying to signpost you.
Mm.
If I went to order a pizza and somebody said, "Oh, I'll just have to check, if we've got the right dough or the right pizza chef."
Yeah.
But the problem with the NHS is that we don't use clinicians up front at the very beginning of the contact point, and I feel very strongly about that.
Well, it's even worse than that, because even if you get to a clinician, then you're talking to a GP. And the GP is quite often the person that just points you in the direction of somebody who specialises in whatever you've got. Wouldn't it be better if you could just go straight to the person who specialises, which I believe you can do in places like Germany and France and elsewhere?
And America, yeah.
Right.
In America, my father lived there, and if he needed to see a dermatologist, he would go straight to the dermatologist. So
right.
I think we do need to rethink about signposting, because very often the person seeking help knows what they need. And they will know that they don't have to go via the GP or via an investigation, but they need to see a dermatologist or a gynecologist or whatever. I think that's where our system is completely wasted in terms of cost, admin and disappointment for individuals seeking help.
Yes, exactly. I think there is, there's a lot to be said for making it more efficient and making the money go farther and taking inefficiencies out of the system. But which is not to say we've got to chuck the whole thing out and bring in an American system, which it seems to be the way that we're going on that and many other issues. The American way, which is winner takes all.
Well, to be honest, I think our NHS is just the best service system in the world, but it's unaffordable as we're currently accessing it in terms of sort of people going round the loop several times before they get what they need. So I agree with you that we need to be able to go direct to... GPs are brilliant, and they are very often the referral point. But if we could go, if I had, like I've mentioned, dermatologists, if I had a skin problem, why can't I go straight to a skin consultant?
Makes perfect sense to me, rather than wait for 3 weeks to get a GP appointment, who then says, I'll put you on the list to go and see a consultant, and that'll be 6 months' time. You could shave at least 3 weeks off by going straight to the person that specialises in what you've got.
Precisely, and also the use of NHS 111 is a bit of a distraction because you don't speak to a clinician, so you have to go through some hoops.
Yeah.
Even though you personally know what you need,
right?
But you have to go through that hoop. So we just need to get clinicians right up front in the NHS to take, referrals.
And I do think that it has something to do with money. I mean, money is not the answer, but it is part of the solution in that we spend less on the per head of population on health in this country than many of our major competitor countries who have, by stunning coincidence, better results and a wide variety of illnesses and conditions than we have here. It's not unconnected.
But I do think that we waste a lot of money, just on the point I'm making, which is direct access to clinicians. And if we could get rid of the bureaucracy, I've worked in an accident and emergency department where I was watching people coming into the department, and 2 very, very sick people came in, and they needed to go straight to see a consultant in the majors department, whereas the other sort of 20 people in the department didn't need that. But the receptionist did not clock that there were 2 very sick people that needed to be fast-tracked. And you think about them sitting around for 4-7 hours in a queue, and the impact that might have on their health and their outcomes is quite dramatic.
Well, there's too many people who have too much power and too little information at their disposal who are making decisions that could affect you for the rest of your life.
Exactly, and I think if I can make one really strong point tonight with you, Nick, is let's get clinicians right at the front of the NHS. So they are seeing the patient at their first point of contact and making decisions. Some may say, go away, you're a GP problem, go and sort out. I just think we waste time and money by people being turned away or waiting to see somebody that can just say, actually, you do have a serious problem, or you don't.
Agreed. Okay, thanks for that, Penny. 0345 6060 973. Hey, I haven't got round to the war yet.
I'll bring us into war.
It's going to be World War III and IV, both at the same time. This is forthcoming attractions. I hope I'll be able to squeeze it in before the end of this here super show. 0345 6060 973. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbot, LBC.
50.
Come on, we're running late.
0345 6060 973. Surbiton. Hello, Diana.
Oh, hello, Nick.
Diana.
When I lived in Battersea, right, by Wandsworth Common,
yes,
in the 60s, we weren't allowed coal fires.
No?
It was called the Clean Air Act.
Right.
Yeah, so yes, we wasn't allowed coal fires at all.
You know how much money it would cost to live near Wandsworth Common now?
Oh, how much money does it cost to live in Battersea?
Well, I suppose so, yeah. Big money, huge, yeah.
Struth. You're talking about a 2 up, 2 down little terrace house. My in-laws used to live in one of those in Eversley Road.
Yes.
You're talking about nearly £1 million.
Easily £1 million. It probably cost you £1 million just to buy the parking space outside.
Exactly.
How things have changed,
it was always a nice area, even in the early days. Yeah, definitely.
How things have changed, though. Ordinary people with doing ordinary jobs would be able, with one person earning in the family, would be able to have an actual whole life, real life house in a place like Wandsworth. Whereas these days you'd have to be in the banking racket to be able to afford a house. With just one earner in the household. Yeah.
Exactly. A friend of mine who lives in Cornwall was telling me that the council sold land to property developers up in Birmingham, Manchester, and of course people from that area have come down and they've actually bought the houses and they're letting them off over £1,000 in rent. Ridiculous, isn't it, for Cornwall?
What's happening in Cornwall has happened everywhere else in this country, particularly London. But it's not it's not developers in Birmingham and other places. It's developers in China and Malaysia that have ruined London's skyline. As I mentioned briefly in passing, for the reason of generating profits in the first place. But it's where the international criminal super rich come to wash their money clean. And that's why London's skyline looks like that now. So that people in China and Malaysia and Russia and Azerbaijan and all of these places can come and make their ill-gotten gains look like, proper money. Thanks for the bad news there, Diana. Daniel tweets, is it me or does pizza the next day taste better than when it was fresh? Well, no. It is just you. But it's extra delicious because you wake up and you think, oh, what shall I eat? Oh, I know. Pizza from last night. It's that delicious surprise that makes it taste so good. Lorraine says, I don't remember any careers advice at school saying be an MP and then you'll have never-ending money. You'll have never-ending money and can live in the Caribbean. Have you thought of crowdfunding to get a new car? As for AC/DC, have you heard Disturbed playing The Sound of Silence? There's a band called Disturbed, and they play The Sound of Silence? Yeah, it's a no from me, Lorraine. And furthermore... No. Yeah, knowing nothing about it, it's a no. Leeds. Hello, John.
Hiya.
John.
I want to talk about the NHS.
Okay.
I phoned up at 5:30 p.m. and I was told that I must talk to a doctor within the next hour.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting. I got a phone call. I got a phone call at 9 o'clock, and the lady says to me, "I'm not the doctor. I'm just ringing to see how you are." I said, "Well, no better."
Right.
So she says to me, "Well, you want me to reassess you?" So I said, "Well, no," because I know what you're going to say. So she says, "Well, it's going to be a few more hours yet."
Oh my God!
So
what, to just get somebody on the phone?
So I said to her, I said, "Well, what happens if I drop off?" So she said, "Well, if you drop off, we'll ring you back in an hour. And if we don't answer that call, well, you just have to go to the back of the queue."
Oh my God!
And I'm in absolute agony, Nick. Absolute agony I am. And so I'm going mad with cystitis. And, it's terrible. It's all in my back and all in my sides.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Well, I don't know what to say there, John, but I do wish you the very best. And is anybody in a position to do anything about this listening? I would expect that the answer to that is no. And even if they were, and were in a position to do anything about it, would they? That's probably a no too. God, can you believe? But what's happening in this country just seems to be, I don't know, I just don't think I can take it anymore. I mean, really. It is getting a bit much, isn't it? I mean, does anything work? Thanks, John. I wish you all the best. God, just call that man back, for crying out loud. David texts, the leader of the Scottish Tories, Douglas Ross, has held his hands up and said he forgot to enter his earnings as a football referee. Just out of interest, what would happen to a single mother of 3 if she forgot to mention she earned money as a football referee on her universal credit claim form? I think we know the answer to that, David. Prison for 6 months. Prison. Michael texts, I think it's a shame these climate guys were not around when Noah was here. A lot of more animals could have been saved. And Will says, Nick, the best pizza is a $1 slice in New York. A huge slice of pizza and a bubble tea. Bubble tea? What's that? I'll tell you what, Will. Whatever it is, I don't want it. Of course, if you're ordering pizza in New York, it will be brought to your table by a rat. So, World War III. Belarus wants Russian nuclear-capable missiles to deploy them in the south and west of the country. That's Belarus.
Oh, no.
They want nukes. This is President Alexander Lukashenko. He was talking to a Russian defense magazine, and when they say defense, they mean attack. Russia is apparently a close ally of Belarus, which the European Union has accused of engineering a crisis on its border by flying in thousands of migrants and pushing them to try to cross illegally into Poland. Seems to be a distraction scheme. The publication of the interview comes after the Russian President Vladimir Putin, rootin' tootin', suggested that he was growing frustrated with the Belarusian strongman after Lukashenko threatened on Thursday to retaliate against any new European sanctions against Minsk over the migrant standoff by restricting Europe's gas supply, which goes through his country. And people who are causing the Russian president to become frustrated usually find it very difficult to get life insurance. Brussels is currently gearing up to sanction Minsk, not the town, over the crisis at the Poland-Belarus border, and Russia has been accused by the West of helping Belarus to weaponize the crisis amid warnings from the Kremlin that it is also mobilizing to invade Ukraine, which is probably the it of it. Create a distraction in Belarus while Russia invades Ukraine. Lukashenko, the strongman leader of Belarus, told the National Defense magazine that he needed the mobile ballistic missile systems, which can carry nuclear warheads. He said, I need several divisions in the west and the south, and that would be next to Poland and Lithuania. But the Russian leader, rootin' tootin', said that the dictator had not consulted him before raising the possibility of cutting the Russian gas flows to Europe, adding that such a move would risk harming ties between Lukashenko and rootin' tootin'. And you don't want to cut ties with rootin' tootin', otherwise it turns out very, very bad for you. The Russian leader said the dictator had not consulted him about cutting the gas to Europe. He can, I guess, said Putin. It's not good, though, and I'll talk to him about it. Probably the most chilling words in the English language. Vladimir Putin said he's going to talk to you about something. Putin said, I've recently spoken to Lukashenko, and he didn't mention this to me once. He said, in theory, Lukashenko, as president of a transit country, could order Russia's gas supplies to be cut to Europe, but this would mean a breach of our gas transit contract, and I hope this will not happen, Putin added. He then offered him a nice cup of tea.
Warning, warning!
Put your affairs in order before having that tea. Of course, rootin' tootin' could be just playing us and goading on Lukashenko in private. He is an evil mastermind, you know.
Correct.
And As the crisis escalated, Britain's most senior military officer warned that there's a greater risk of an accidental war breaking out between the West and Russia than at any time since the Cold War.
Oh, no.
So that's going to be war in Europe. That'll be World War III. Meanwhile, World War IV will be taking place far, far away. Unfortunately, it will be between Australia and China, and as Australia is going to be where we get all our fresh, delicious meat, that's going to be very upsetting. Christmas is cancelled. Paint your windows white and hide under your kitchen table. That's the best advice I can get you. If you stick around, Ian Payne will delight from 4, but right now, here is Clive Bull. 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 Here is